Thank you. My name is Errol Shanefish. How many of you saw our session earlier today? Yep, and so my name is Errol Shanefish. I am the only Errol Shanefish in the world. That is correct. It's very easy to find me, errol.shanefish@microsoft.com, Errol Shanefish on LinkedIn, all of those things. Twitter, however, is @IfErrolCanDoIt. So what we're going to do today is talk about Business Central, and we're really going to drill in on the unified aspect of Business Central. So at the session earlier today, we talked about Business Central is a modern, unified, intelligent, adaptable solution, and we're going to hone in on the unified and what that means and show you. So I'm going to do a bunch of show and tell with the solution. So I'll sort of talk about it, and then I'll show it, and we'll talk about it some more. But what is it unified with? Well, it's unified with the Azure platform. It's unified certainly with all of the Microsoft 365 applications, kind of specifically Office 365 and everything that's included in that. And then the Power Platform set of applications. And so the capabilities to extend Business Central with Power Platform, inclusive of Power BI, apps, and Flow. And I'm going to talk about all of those things. But what we're going to do, I think I have an actual sort of agenda. What do we have? We've got Outlook, Excel, Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow. Those are the 4 areas that we're going to concentrate on to show you all of the ways that Business Central is unified with these applications. And everything, not everything that you can do, but a bunch of things that you can do. So there is an Outlook add-in that is #IfErrolCanDoIt, simple to deploy with Business Central and your Outlook solution. And as a result of that, it exposes Business Central inside of Outlook in a number of different ways. You can see a number of different types of transactions. You can see customers. You can see vendors. And in fact, if you really want to geek out, there is a way for you to extend this Outlook add-in. So if we haven't done something, you could yourselves or pay for somebody to extend it and do even more. I'm not going to talk about that specifically because it's above my pay grade, but I do have a site that you can go to learn about how to do something like that. So for instance, one of our partners has extended it into the inventory area of Business Central so that you can see, feel, touch inventory information inside of Outlook. Okay, and so what are the different things that you can do? There are dashboards for customer vendor contact. Those are all of the types of entities that you can see inside of Business Central. And there are different documents that you can view inside of Outlook. At the same time, you can also use the calendar functioning in Outlook in a number of different ways. You can create an invoice from a calendar and attach it to a customer, obviously. It'd be weird if you had an invoice without a customer. But you can do that inside of Outlook. And you can use the job functionality in Business Central and create calendar items from your job planning lines and then invoice off of those calendar items that were created from your job planning line. So for instance, if you have resources in your jobs, you can have them create their calendar items as a result of the job that you set up that includes those resources, and then have them invoice off of that. So the way that looks is, this is a wonderfully incorrect slide that I've modified, of course, on my own machine and totally forgot to upload. So eventually the one that you'll get would be the correct one. But this still sort of shows it I'll get into the window and kind of show you where it's at, but I believe this is my pointer. So over here it says Add to Calendar. So I'm in Business Central. This is my job planning lines. I can multiply select these lines, and they say Add to Calendar. And then what happens is the person, the resource, gets an email, and they accept that as a calendar item. And then once they've done that on the calendar item itself, they can pull that up and have that, see the information that it's been assigned, and actually invoice off of it inside of the calendar. Does that make sense? Am I speaking a different language? Some of you are saying, I don't have resources, I don't have jobs, this doesn't mean anything to me, and that is 1,000% accurate. Okay, so let's take a look at the Outlook add-in. First of all, I'm going to start in Business Central. I've obviously deployed the Outlook add-in already, but I'm just going to quickly show you where that's at. So in my assisted setup area, there's this really well-named set up your business inbox in Outlook. And it's a couple of clicks, and then you're done. Just say, next, yes, this is me. Yes, I want a sample message. I'm actually not going to do that. And hashtag if Errol can do it. That's it. That's how you set it up. Okay, so once we have it set up, what can you do? I'm going to show you a number of different things. I'm going to start with the really fancy one first, which is you get, where is it? There it is. You get an email from a customer that says something to the effect, hey, I want a quote on these things that we talked about. And there's actually a couple of different ways. So I'm in the web version of Mail, by the way, and this works in either desktop or web version of Outlook, either one. I just happen to be in the web one, and actually one of the reasons that I like the web one is we kind of deployed a couple of different ways. If I click the Business Central icon here, it shows up on the right-hand side, but if I click this one, it actually shows up in a little bit bigger window in the Mail itself. So this is this customer. I have everything about this customer that I could possibly need, including what their payments have been, all outstanding transactions, so I can see the details of posted sales invoices that I've had with them in the past. And really, there's pretty much everything that I need to know about this customer is surfaced inside of Outlook. But what we want to do is actually do something with that. And by the way, this understands, because of the email, that this is a customer. And so the actions that it surfaces are customer actions. So things like sales quote, invoice, order, credit memo, etc. Now, what's also important to know is when we get to this, these are also the document types that Business Central will, or excuse me, that Outlook will recognize as Business Central documents. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. We want to create a sales quote. And if you saw the demo earlier, what it's doing is it read the email, and it's suggesting as a result of those descriptions, London swivel chair and Antwerp conference table, it actually suggests that these are the items that you want to add to this quote, and you can either accept or reject those. But in a matter of clicks, directly from within Outlook, without going anywhere else, I can create a quote and then send that as an email off to the customer. So that was, it recognized the customer, and then I can do something. I can actually take action on this customer. Similarly, we understand vendors. So this is a vendor of mine, and one of the additional things that you can get that is integrated to Business Central is optical character recognition service. And so in this case, it would take this PDF document and read it through optical character recognition and then update Business Central, basically create a purchase invoice inside of Business Central automatically. Now, that's not inherent in Business Central. It's a service that you can get, but we are integrated to optical character recognition service. As I mentioned, this is a vendor, so it's everything that I have on this vendor, all of those same details that were similar to the customer. And similarly, I can do these things because it knows it's a vendor. I can create a purchase invoice, order, or credit memo. Or in this case, since it has this attachment, I could send this as an incoming document into my optical character recognition service that would then verify it and physically create a purchase invoice inside of Business Central. And where are we doing this from? Outlook. This is all in Outlook. We haven't even gone into the application yet. Here's another one. This is a person. My name is Sally. I'm a new sales contact at Nod Publishers. I should probably change my demo data because I don't have Nod Publishers as a customer. But it doesn't recognize it, and so it presents me with these things. Do you want to create this as a new contact of an existing customer, or do you want to create an all-new customer? And so either one of those can be done. So if I choose this as a new contact, is that what I chose? I can't remember what I chose. Yep. Add Sally as a new contact, and then we can attach Sally. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. That's a contact as in an opportunity contact. I'm going to have to go delete her now so that when I go do this demo again, it won't be there. So you can either have them as an opportunity contact, as a contact to an existing customer, either one of those things. One of my favorites, because of a customer of ours, they said this was like the greatest thing. How many of you are sort of like the accounting people? Right? And a few. Okay. Let's see where you are. Do you ever get that question, hey, how much do I owe you? Ever get that question? Via email? Yep. And so again, with Business Central, it knows it's the customer. And from my actions available to me, I can just go down to the open entries, send that to a PDF, and then I can email this off to the customer that has the exact transactions and the full dollar amount, and this is how much I owe you. You owe me. Sorry. I'm usually doing the other way around personally, so that's why I said that, I guess. So that's one that you can do. Okay, so I mentioned that it understands transactions. And here's the way that looks. So this is an internal email, and it's maybe it came from a sales rep to a sales manager. It says, could you please approve a 7% discount on this order quote, whatever it is, quote, I think. And so again, normally what you'd have to do is maybe, even if you have a CRM system, you might have to launch that, go in there, find the quote, et cetera, et cetera. But with Business Central, now what you'll notice is here it says Document View right next to the actual Business Central hyperlink. And so this launches the specific document because it recognized S-QU01 or 01001. It just saw that in the email and said that must be this document. So now I can go take a look at this, put in the 7% discount, and then send it on. This is what I call ad hoc approval process. Anybody have ad hoc approval processes in their businesses? We all do. So that's a transactional one. Another one, I just sent this to myself the other day. I thought you should know that a big order came through. This one is sort of great for those executives. They want to see just little bits of information like this, right? You don't want to actually give them access to the full accounting system maybe. But what they can do is view things like this that are in Business Central. So somebody said, hey, thought you should know we got this big order, and now they can go see what was on the order, what the payment terms were, or if there was any discount or any of that type of thing. And so it really gave them quick access to information without having to go search in some application, authenticate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that is, in a nutshell, sort of the Outlook piece of Business Central. The different types of things that you can expose, again, are customers, contact information, vendors, and there's 7 or 8 different kinds of documents that can be surfaced here simply because we have an email address that we recognize and we have a document number that we recognize. Make sense? Cool. All right. I'm not gonna show you the full the full calendar thing, but I did want to go to to jobs just to quickly show you what that screen actually looks like now, as opposed to what I did show you. So again, in the job planning lines, now it just says Outlook, send to calendar, and that would create a calendar item sent to someone's email that they would accept, and then they can invoice off of that calendar item back to Business Central. Kind of cool if you're into jobs or projects if you're from Canada. Hey, I can say that. I'm from Fargo, North Dakota, and I'm practically Canadian. It's like only less than 3-hour drive. All right. Let's see. Let's go back here. So that was the Outlook add-in. There are a couple of other things. You can also synchronize your Business Central contacts with your Outlook contacts. If you want to do that, that's a little bit scary because if you're anything like me, I have all kinds of different contacts in my Outlook, personal and stuff, passwords, all things I probably shouldn't have in there. But you can do that if you want to do that. And generally, this does require the web client of Business Central, which if you came to the earlier session, as of October, that will be the only client available for Business Central. And it does also require AAD. So those are kind of the two primary things that you need to know. So if you have Office 365, you're covered. You don't have to think about this slide whatsoever. And it's, as you saw, it was really easy to deploy. If you want to extend what we've already done, this is the blog post that I would suggest to go look at for those really geeky engineer type of people. And you can extend it even further. So you can have other things that we don't have in there. If you wanted to have like inventory items as things that were surfaced inside of Outlook, you can certainly go do things like that. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is Excel. So we also have an look at information that's in Business Central, and make nice charts and graphs inside of Excel. But you can, it's two-way. Obviously, for those things that are not, what's the accountant word I want to use here? Audit trail. Things that are not audit trail required. Like you can't just change the dollar amount of a posted transaction, for instance. That would be a bad thing. That would be QuickBooks is what that would be. But yeah, I know. It's quite well documented. Yeah, so it's only those things that you should actually be able to change. And it is fully authenticated according to your security rights. So you can't send something to Excel and edit it that you don't already have access to, or create a new Excel document that connects to Business Central for things that you don't have access to. So it's already authenticated, can't change things that you shouldn't be able to. And so the easiest way to do this is from inside of Business Central. There's 40-some list pages that you can send to Excel and then modify the content in Excel and then publish back to Business Central. Or you can start from scratch and create your own and do that. And so either one of those types of ways is fully functional, and you can do either one. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So the scenario that I've sort of put into place is it's just me, I like to use this task area. So I have a task that somebody said, modify salesperson code. So that would be, maybe you had a regional change, and so now you have new salespeople assigned to different customers. And so you need to do that. Now, obviously, this would be pretty easy for me because I only have, 6 customers. So going into each card and changing it would be fairly easy. But many of you, I've heard, have more than 6 customers. Is that a true thing? Yeah, so you might want to do this instead in a tabular way, like Excel, instead of going into each individual form. So we're going to change the salesperson codes that are assigned to my 6 customers, and of course, that happened. And now you're saying, oh, Errol got himself into trouble here. What's he going to do? Is he going to be able to get out of this? We'll find out. If you're wondering, this is, I'm not going to tell you. Anybody like Kentucky Fried Chicken? How many of you really want to know how it's made? That's a demo tip that I have for everyone. We really don't want to know how it's made. Okay, So I have this. I have these salesperson codes, and so it's the old, how good are you at copy and paste? I'm just going to show you something here, just to show you how cool this is. So I'm changing the salesperson codes for my 6 customers, and then, oh no, I got an error message. One wasn't successfully done. And basically, the reason is that ES is not a valid salesperson code, so it didn't update it. But I am going to do that. And so the other ones would have been updated. So if we go into ADatum, this is going to throw me a message here also. So don't be alarmed. But my salesperson code there, now it's JR. I saw that. Let's, oops, not where I wanted to go. Let's refresh that. And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to change them all back so that the next time I do this demo, I can. This is, sorry, chicken parts, sorry. So that's, that's basically it for Excel. As I mentioned, you can start from scratch or not. It's really up to you. And or there are, like I said, 40-some list pages in the entire solution. And we're adding more and more with each release. So think of all the major areas. Obviously, customer, vendor, item. There's job ones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Actually, bear with me a second. I forgot one thing in Outlook that I wanted to show you. And that is, you know how I said this is like Business Central? You can see all the things about a customer. But similarly, if you happen to have Dynamics 365 for sales, you can also expose that inside of Outlook. And so now you have not only all of the sort of financial pieces of the customer at your disposal inside of Outlook, but you also have the sales pieces. So opportunities, all of the sales process types of things that happen as a result of the Dynamics 365 for sales. And that way, you could have a salesperson, again, that can see all of the posted transactions that have occurred, on-order stuff, expected ship times, all of those things directly inside of Outlook, and at the same time actually work on the opportunities that they have and any of those sales transaction-y things. How many of you have Dynamics 365 for sales? Anyone? Yep. Have you seen, I'm not going to show it here, but the new Teams integration with Dynamics 365, unification with Dynamics 365 for sales? So you can expose Dynamics 365 inside of Teams, have conversations. So you're doing a conversation in Dynamics 365 for sales, and it shows up in Teams. It's really cool. You got to go see it. I like the Office integration stuff. I tend to geek out on that. Okay. All right, the next one is Power BI. And I do want to bring up this slide because it's kind of important. Okay, so inside of Business Central, you can expose Power BI. And the first top left column there, or tile, it says report selection is personalized by user and role. So what you can do in the 7 or 8 or 9 different areas where you can expose Power BI inside of Business Central, what physically shows up there is personalized to the user. And or you can set it up for a role and then push it out to everyone that's in that role. So they will see the similar reports dependent upon the role within their organization. It says provide summary or contextual Power BI reports. And so what that means is that on the home page, it's sort of by default, it's summary because there's really nothing contextual about the home page. So it might be things like customer sales graphs, so top 5 customers that look like this. However, when you go to the customer list page, vendor list page, item list page, you can have contextual Power BI charts that refresh as you're looking at individual items, customers, vendors, and inventory items. So the BI chart will be specific to what that is, okay? And you can obviously expand it. You can have information that's not Business Central information that might also be somewhat contextual. And so, really the world is your oyster as it relates to how this is exposed inside of Business Central. It's really up to you. We provide a bunch of Power BI charts out of the box, and about 10 minutes of my demo on this part last year was how to set up Power BI with Business Central. And now it's 0 seconds because it's just there. We automatically deploy them for you, ours, out of the box, and then you can go modify. So it used to be you had to go to Power BI, and then you had to go get a thing, and then you had to type in your credentials, and then you had to do this, you had to do that. None of that is in Business Central now. It's just simply it looks and it sees who you are and it says, do you have Power BI? Yes, you do. And it sucks all those into Business Central automatically. So, so as a result, the deployment is super, super, super easy. So my suggestion, just get started with our sample reports. And the connect to your data part is actually not even really, it is connected. Actually, this is probably a year-old slide. And then you can customize from there. So how that looks physically inside of Business Central is so this is my home page. As I mentioned, all of these reports, if I go to select reports, all of these reports are automatically deployed to your Business Central solution, and then you just simply enable the ones that you want to have as viewable inside of that window that we mentioned. So when you go next report, next report, next report, you tell it how many of these you want to have show up, physically show up inside of the window when you do that. Like I've only got a couple. And so again, the beauty of this is that you have that information inside of Business Central, the place that you work. You can drill down to more details. So that said, top 5 sales, but this chart is actually more than that. It is a chart that shows more detailed information about your, in this case, sales. And then you'll notice I can see information as I hover, and I can restrict information. So if I only want to look at this customer, then it limits the information to this specific customer. And one of the cool, and date ranges, different posting groups, and salesperson is some of the ones that, again, we provide this out of the box, and then you can modify it. So for instance, if you, on this item sales dashboard, wanted to pull in from some other database information that's related to a customer, then you can do that and have that as something that you could restrict off of. And then the details are also available at my disposal on this particular. Details show nothing. I think that has to do with my posting date. But I think you kind of get the idea of sort of what's available here. How many would call yourselves, I've created some stuff in Power BI? Okay, hashtag if you can do it. I've done very little, but it's, again, if you know Power BI, get our reports out of the box, take a look at them, modify them, and or start from scratch. And then what you simply do then, if you want to get one of those reports into Business Central to be viewed, you simply go to Select Report, and then at the top, you do Get Reports, and there's, and you can choose if it's only something that's that you've created for your organization, it would show up in my organization. I don't have any of those, but the way that you see maybe something that somebody else has built, as you go to services, this will restrict in just a second on just Business Central stuff. So here's all of the ones that we provide out of the box, and then there's a couple of other ones that are out there also. Clear as mud? Remember when I said that you could have both Dynamics 365 for sales and Business Central in your Outlook? Remember that part? I showed that. And just as an FYI, when you are connected to Dynamics 365 for sales, you have that information available inside of Business Central. So these are cases that are coming from Dynamics 365 for sales, customer cases. And you can drill all the way back to Dynamics 365 for sales on the details of this. But they're simply exposed in here so that people that spend more of their time in Business Central also have access to this information directly inside of Business Central. All right. Where are we at? So you'll have to get the presentation to get these hyperlinks. If you take a picture, I don't know what good it'll do you. But there are hyperlinks underneath these for ways to get more information about Power BI. And there's some really good online training that's been done by a number of our partners, actually, on Power BI and Business Central and the types of things that they do. Oftentimes, our partners build like industry packs of Power BI on top of data as it relates to specific industries. Okay, here comes the fun one. Hashtag if Errol can do it. Power Apps and Flow. So Power Apps is really interesting. I talked about this at the previous session, but we had a customer on stage last October, Kelly Roofing, and I wanted to demo a PowerApp situation. And so I gave him some ideas on what they might do. They were just starting to get into it. And he said, no, Errol, we wouldn't do any of those things that you're suggesting, which was a little disheartening. But he did say, hey, but here's a situation. And so we, batted that around a little bit, and I went off and did a little bit of work, and then I had to get an engineer involved for about an hour and a half or so. And we built this really specific app for them that connects to Business Central. And it was a way for them to connect their installers, which are, I think they have 200 installers. It's a roofing company. And they have 200 installers and about 6 people in accounting. And there was some things that were happening on site that weren't getting back to the accounting people, and so they wanted to, have a way to connect the installers with the accounting people, but to not have sort of this full application in front of somebody's face in order to do that. Plus, the accounting or the installers were basically never on site, only to pick up materials and that type of thing, start their day. So PowerApps was a great way for them to write a really specific line of business application that integrates into Business Central. And so we have our data sets out there, and they're readily available, and you can go choose those data sets and start that process. As it relates to flow, we have created, I want to say 16-ish out-of-the-box flows that allow you to connect to Business Central. And so think in terms of approval types of things. So I'm going to do a purchase order, and if the purchase order amount is greater than X, then I want to start an approval process. And so granted, there is that inside of Business Central itself, but you can extend that and connect to other things. So maybe you want to do, yes, I'm going to start this approval process, but at the end of it, I want to notify some people. So I want to notify in my Microsoft Teams area the credit team that XYZ happened as a result of adding this new customer or something like that. There's just so many connections inside of Flow to really extend that type of a thing. Is that me? Oh. And so what I thought I'd do is first show you the Kelly Roofing application so that you understand what I'm talking about. And then I'll do just a little bit of chicken parts, okay? We'll do a little bit of, first we're going to do Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then we're going to do just a little bit of chicken parts. This is the amazing application that was built. So imagine I'm an installer, I'm on site, we accidentally run over a mailbox, and the customer comes the next day and hands me a receipt and says, I just went to the hardware store myself, I got a new mailbox, please could I have a credit on my account because you ran over my mailbox. Or their gnome, or lawn gnome. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, their lawn gnome. Could be that too, whatever. And again, what invariably would happen is the receipt would get thrown back in the back of the pickup, and 3 days later, maybe it shows up on the accountant's desk. Accountant has no idea what it is. They start calling around. Finally, 6 or 7 days later, they sort of figure it out what it is. And meanwhile, the customer isn't satisfied with your customer service. So instead, just pretend this is on my phone, which it is. I could do that, but just pretend for now. And what it does is, via GPS, it picks the most likely customer location that you're at. Ooh, hey, that's an awesome background, isn't it? But you don't want to see me. You want to see the receipt, the Walmart receipt. We'll take a picture of that. Actually, that's the receipt. This is the wreckage. And then you enter in the dollar amount, obviously. And again, this is the installer that's doing this. Whoops. And request credit. Now, how simple was that? That was pretty simple. Hashtag if Arrow can do it, right? I think the installer could do something like that. Now, what happens as a result of that is that a little bit of chicken parts here. That spins up a flow. And the flow starts the approval process of getting this credit into Business Central. So I get this email, and here's the information. I know the customer, I know the dollar amount. I can take a look at the scanned receipt, or we probably want to take a look at that incident photo, don't we? Wow, that's scary. Yeah, not my best effort. But obviously we have the scanned receipt, and then we'll say, be more careful next time. And now what it's going to do is actually what they wanted to have happen additionally is to have everybody in the accounting area know that this was approved, because this problem might have gone to an installer manager person. It might have gone to the owner for the approval. And so they wanted to make sure that all of the accounting people were notified that this was approved. And so what they did is inside of Microsoft Teams, which is part of Office 365, they just posted a notification in the Teams area. It says, hey, this was approved. Maybe you'd have the person's name on the, well, I guess it is me, John. I'm John Peltier today. Maybe you could potentially, actually on the Outlook thing, you could have potentially, no, you couldn't have linked to a document because we hadn't created it yet. That's right. But at any rate, it gets posted here, and then it also creates a credit memo inside of Business Central. So started from this app that took, roughly 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and we totally automated this process that was a week-long process, lots of heartache, people calling other people, total waste of time, and instead, awesome customer service, people are connected, they know exactly what's going on, and it was a very short amount of time to build that using PowerApps and Flow. So, you're wondering chicken parts, Errol, right? You want to see some chicken parts? Let's go back to the app itself. The app is really quite simple. It's basically 2 windows. And it's quite amazing. I designed most of it. Let's get this bigger. All we did was, again, this was a GPS lookup for the customer attached to this. And then there's a second window, which is the detail. Okay, there was an end screen also. Forgot about that. And there's a camera widget that you place here. So whatever device you're using is what it's gonna be. We sort of designed this for a phone form factor, but you could have designed it for a tablet form factor or something like that also. These 2 buttons save those documents to OneDrive, the pictures to OneDrive, so that we can uncover them during that approval process. And then the request credit is what button is where we invoke the flow. And so the flow for this one looks like this. So what we do is let me get into here's where we're looking at the incident picture, and here's the approval, which is where I wanted to get to. So what it does, once it has, basically all this does is grabs the information from the PowerApp. So that's where we started. It gets all of the information from the PowerApp, and then it says, okay, do what's called an approval. Like that's a function inside of Flow. Do an approval, and when you do that, assign it to this person, and I want to have on the approval this information that's coming from the PowerApp, and I want to have those photos, and this is the information that I want to have on there, and then what happens if I approve the approval, and what happens if I don't. So on the approval side, it says, first of all, create a transaction inside of Business Central. So create this credit memo. And then additionally, I want to post a message in Teams that lets everybody know. So that's it. I mean, it's not, it's a little bit, it's like you can sort of get partway there. I'm not the smartest tool in the sheds, so that's not even a phrase. That's how silly I am. It's not even a phrase, smartest tool in the shed. Sharpest tool in the shed? Man, some days, this is what happens when you get to be my age. So just as an FYI, I've created some other ones out here. This is a purchase order approval, and there's one that I've created that's when I add a customer, I want to do an approval process. Especially if, for instance, the customer is requesting a high credit limit. And so you can set all those variables. And if you want to create a new one, what you want to do, I would suggest when you play with this, create from template and then just look at Business Central. And then here's all of the ones that we've provided out of the box. So there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, no, 12, 13. Of course, I have a inkling just to put one more out there so it's not 13. So here's the ones that we do, and they're fairly basic. A lot of them just simply use this icon here as approvals, and then use Outlook. So it's mostly just approvals, Outlook, but like posting to Teams or going somewhere and getting some additional information and bringing it in, all of those things are things that you can do with the Flow also. All right, let's see. I think that's it for that part. Okay, so some next steps for you. If you're interested in PowerApps and Flow, like this is the conference to be at, and Power BI for that matter. So if there's more detailed things you want to know, basically the message is we have the connections. They're already there. And that's the easy part to me, is the Business Central connections. That's the easy part. It's understanding all of the things that you can do with Power BI, PowerApps, and Flow. That's a little bit more monumentous. But obviously, this is the place to go. This is a great conference to learn more about that. So my suggestion would be just go learn more about that. If, however, you really want to get down and dirty with Business Central, tomorrow there are 3 sessions that will do that. The first one is you can customize Business Central yourselves using, and this is as technical as I get, using Visual Studio Code. Business Central has the idea of extensions, and what that is, and I'm actually going to, want to level set everybody. So the reason that you would go do something in Visual Studio Code is to really extend the solution that's specific to your organization inside of Business Central. So what we saw with PowerApps, really specific, mobile, line of business. I do it over here, and it's integrated to Business Central. But with Visual Studio Code, you can have your customizations be in, with, and through Business Central, inside of Business Central. And a number of our partners have, sort of done that already through what are called extensions. And so I have a number of extensions loaded on this particular tenant. But if I want to go see other extensions that are available, I can go do that. And I think there's, how many now? Over 300 extensions available now. So for instance, there's one for Canadian Payroll, a Canadian Payroll application that actually sits inside of Business Central and extends what Business Central can already do. There's one for retail called Ellis Express. Food recipes, there you go. There's just tons of them out here, over 300 now. And these are ones that partners have created that they want to market to lots of customers. However, you can have something that's specific to your organization. It doesn't have to be an app source. You can create it yourselves or have your partner create it, and it's just specific to you as a customer. That can also be done even though we're talking about a managed by Microsoft cloud-based solution. And that is the idea of extensions. So long story longer, tomorrow's, all of this is about how in detail you can extend Business Central in a more of a developer kind of a concept. So the customizing in Visual Studio Code is kind of the basis of how we do that, how you would physically create your customizations and make a specific extension for your organization. And then the one that says Connect Apps, that is more around if you wanted to do a service-to-service integration. So we have 40-some APIs out of the box. And for instance, if you wanted to do something where you have a bank service and you want to connect it to Business Central, that's a little bit more where that is. So just so you know that those sessions are going on tomorrow. And then if you don't have Business Central yet, you want to take a look at it, I would say sign up for our trial. It is what I demoed off of here. You can run that until you don't want to run it anymore. It might pop up and say something about 30 days. Just ignore that. As long as you're in the lesson learning company, you can play with it as much as you want to. And then there's just a boatload of online documentation available on docs.microsoft.com. That's actually a great place to go for all of our business applications. So docs.microsoft.com, and then select business applications, and there's detailed documents on all of our applications. So with that, I literally have 15, 14, 13, 12. I should have started at 10, shouldn't I? 9, 8. Thank you for coming, and have a great rest of your Business Application Summit.